When we heard about Rex Tillerson getting ready to come out with an impromptu press conference, I thought for sure that he was getting ready to resign. And here's why. He didn't, obviously, but here's my thinking process, or my thought process, and here's why I think it's important, or relevant, at least, if not important, is the fact that Rex Tillerson, albeit still not a friend of progressivism, he's the pretty stable hand, comparatively speaking, in the Trump administration. I think that's a fair statement. He is the steady hand, comparatively speaking, in the Trump administration. And so, seeing the level of insanity that is the Trump administration, we asked ourselves, how long would Rex Tillerson actually last in that environment? Particularly most recently, when Donald Trump undermined Tillerson with regard to North Korea on an issue that's of the utmost importance, right? North Korea, here we are trying to avoid a nuclear conflict, or just even a conventional warfare conflict with North Korea. Here we have Donald Trump chiming in via Twitter, undermining the Secretary of State directly. And then this morning, it came out from NBC News that Rex Tillerson allegedly called Donald Trump a moron, which, I mean, I think is a compliment when you consider all the other pejoratives he actually earns, right? Donald Trump is a lot worse than a moron. So if the worst thing that Rex Tillerson had to say about Donald Trump was that he was a moron, then I think that they could still work together. I'm just saying, that's just me. But it came out from NBC News this morning that he allegedly called Donald Trump a moron back in July, and he apparently was getting ready to resign in July. And Rex Tillerson jumped up and called a press conference. And, you know, me and my one of my producers, Max, we had a bet going on. I owe him a drink. I owe the first round of drinks when I go back to Boston to visit or whatnot. And he bet pretty confidently, and he was right, that Rex Tillerson wasn't going anywhere. My thought was that he was going to leave, because how long, I mean, really, again, how long can a person that fancies themselves to be a serious individual actually deal with Donald Trump? Well, that's the A side of the question. The B side of the question is, somebody has to be an adult in this administration. Somebody. You can't completely. This is the problem of the presidency. We're seeing on full display the problem of the office of the presidency, of the president. It's the problem is such that no one can really hold him accountable unless he crosses a threshold that he's not authorized to cross. Right. Let's give a worst case scenario. If the president of the United States chose to launch a nuclear attack, there's no one who can tell him no, except in the case of a two-person confirmation, right? Authorization. But there's really no mechanism to hold the president accountable, particularly when his party is in power. The only real mechanism is impeachment. And so I said that to say this: Donald Trump isn't going anywhere, most likely anytime soon, which means there's still a country that has to be managed. There's still diplomacy that has to be engaged in. And so the flip side of the conversation is that, you know, Rex Tillerson, while he is not a friend of progressivism, he's certainly a stable hand in the administration that is Donald Trump. But at the same time, and because of that, rather, I would expect that he would leave, that he would not want to be around and associated with this type of madness. But then the counter argument to that is one that my producer Max made this morning, which is somebody's got to stay. Someone has to stay and be the adult in the room, which is exactly what Senator, I believe Bob Corker said. Yeah, Bob Corker of Tennessee. He said this in an interview post Tillerson. I started that too soon. Post Tillerson press conference. This is what Bob Corker had to say.
I don't talk about private conversations with anyone. Inappropriately, I don't anyway. I think Secretary Tillerson, Secretary Mattis, and Chief of Staff Kelly are those people that help separate our country from chaos. And
I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't expect him to be so candid, right? And honestly, there's something, you guys know I am a person for stability, right? That's my MO. My thing isn't necessarily peace, it's stability. And Donald Trump represents a unique threat to stability and subsequently peace, because he's an idiot. He's unhinged. Not an idiot so much as he is unhinged. And to hear Bob Corker, a Republican, come out and say that it's Tillerson and Mattis and Chief of Staff Kelly, those are the people who separate our country from chaos. That means that these guys, who again aren't friends of progressivism, but I'll take them, right? I will take having a steady hand around a madman. And I don't think that these guys are here necessarily. And I have to see more of Secretary Tillerson's foreign policy and his approach to diplomacy. But his approach to North Korea was to establish a back channel communique so that he can have a means of talking directly. The United States has, or at least had before Donald Trump got involved, the United States had a direct line to North Korea in a back channel to help stave off disaster. And so while they may not hit any check marks in terms of a progressive agenda, they are hitting high marks for me in terms of keeping us from completely collapsing underneath the pressure of Donald Trump's stupidity. But to hear Senator Bob Corker say that, it's kind of refreshing and funny at the same time, because it's true, you know. And I would, on one hand, again, I lost the bet because on one hand, I'm thinking Rex Tillerson actually cares more about his own reputation and integrity and all of that than to stay with Donald Trump's administration. But if he leaves, who would we get to replace him? So those are the things that I think went into play this morning. And one of the funniest things was when he was asked about Donald Trump being a moron, or whether or not he called Donald Trump a moron, and he refused to answer the question. And I know this, you know, it's kind of salacious. It's pretty much irrelevant to the bigger scheme of things, with one exception. Here's where it's relevant. It's relevant in that Donald Trump is likely to believe this anyway. And so while Rex Tillerson is prostrating himself and, you know, recommitting his life to Donald Trump, so to speak, you know, it's very possible that Donald Trump is seeing this and said, "Oh, you called me a moron, huh?" And then he's going to turn around and fire Rex Tillerson anyway. It's a possibility, but I'm that it's a terrifying notion, because then who is he going to put in there? We're save some miraculous impeachment of Donald Trump and Mike Pence and Paul Ryan, and then you get President Tillerson. Save that. I mean, we're pretty much screwed for the next 4 years, which is why we shouldn't put a lot of stock into trying to impeach Donald Trump. If it happens, it happens, right? But we should actually absolutely put our energy into movements, into putting political pressure on the system, not just on the president. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the protests that are going on over in St. Louis, because that's movement politics. That's action. That's people on the ground, people who are getting arrested, speaking, not just speaking out anymore, but carrying out citizen journalism. You know, those are the things that we can affect. Those are the things that we can affect over the next 4 years to not even really stave off some of the things that Donald Trump is doing and is going to do, because it's not really going to be able to directly stop that per se, right? We can have individual movements to address healthcare and everybody calling their senators and their Congress people to address the vote for issues like that. We can make moves like that, but you know, that's again one of the problems with the office of the presidency, because of the president, it has so much power. It has there's so much power invested in one individual, And that power is all but unaccountable when that power has its political party running Congress, the House and the Senate. I want you to weigh in on the discussion, 857-600-0518. So when Tillerson came out, again, he recommitted his life to Donald Trump, so to speak, and that was hilarious. But he began to speak about particularly about how he doesn't understand the Washington D.C. And I'm like, that sounds good, Rex. You understand Washington D.C. quite well. He understood it enough to come out, right? He understood it enough to come out there and know right away that this is how he has to. He understands it enough to realize that he's going to address one thing in the article and not address the other thing in the article, so that he's going to address whether or not he was talked about and talked to by Mike Pence, rather, to stay on. But he's not going to talk about calling President Trump a moron, because he actually did call President Trump a moron, and he doesn't want to be a liar, come out and look like a liar to the people to whom he said these things, right? But he knows how to play the game. That's the long story short. He's up there acting all innocent, like, yeah, I don't understand. I'm sorry, I don't understand how, Washington D.C. works, but where I'm from, we don't deal in petty stuff. Well, where you're from, you also tell the truth. Apparently, if where you're from is as cliche as your accent, then to just own up to the things that you said. But he understands Washington D.C. perfectly. I just thought that was hilarious for him to try to play innocent.